Our next presenter is Maddie. Maddie lives in Raleigh, North Carolina with her husband and enjoys creating recipes and exploring new places and then sharing them on her blog. She is an avid reader and her faith is very important to her. She says that the most difficult part of mental illness is discerning reality versus bipolarity. She is here tonight to shine clarity and light upon this notion. Welcome, Maddie.
Where there was hope. I once again found myself an inpatient in a psychiatric unit, a scenario I am all too familiar with. My introduction to the mental health system began roughly 17 years ago when, as a desperate 15-year-old, I first attempted suicide after being brutally sexually assaulted. I suffered cardiac arrest, and my parents were given a 50% chance for my survival. This is when I give you a slight spoiler alert. I survived. Thus began my journey through the maze that is the mental health world. I was diagnosed and undiagnosed too many times to properly keep count. You have bipolar. You don't have bipolar. We think you have dissociative disorder. Another doctor, actually we don't believe there is such a diagnosis as dissociative disorders. 5 years and 13 hospitalizations later, at the age of 20, I gave up on ever being well. Yet, here I have found myself again in my room, fighting the effects of the newest medications when there is a soft knock on the door. I timidly call out that it is open, and in walks a woman who appears to be in her mid-20s. My first impression of her is that she is all hair, blonde, curly, with massive amounts of it. She's wearing thick rimmed glasses and a white lab coat, and I've already chalked her up to being just another face in the never-ending carousel of doctors, only way prettier. She introduces herself and asks me a flurry of questions. I answer as I usually do, with a distant, almost robotic reply. I mention the sexual abuse that began as a toddler, and then the rape that occurred at age 14, robbing me of any possible innocence I still had left. We discuss how I became anorexic and bulimic and involved in abusive relationships. I reluctantly bring up the first of many suicide attempts in the 10 days in ICU and the ensuing inpatient and medication roulette my life would become over the next few years. I watch her jot down notes, and I wonder, is she lumping me with my illness or seeing past my facade? She begins speaking and states that it is her belief I am suffering from PTSD in addition to my bipolar. She mentions numerous treatment options, and I'm only halfway ascertaining what she's proposing as my mind is still foggy from the newest medications. She relays her confidence in working with me to get past my traumas and into a healthy place. For whatever reason, something deep in my heart believes this stranger with whom I have just become acquainted. I am not sure if it is the desperation to be well that leads me to believe her, or if she is reaching a part of me that others have always failed to breach. Over the next few weeks, I begin to confide in her my innermost thoughts, the wounds and secrets so deeply etched on my soul, my mind has blocked them from memories. And this has become the underlying feeder of my PTSD. It is what has led to my chaotic experiences and the inability to properly function. I somehow find myself looking forward to our therapy sessions, even the ones that are so painful I can't fathom continuing. The days that I struggle to get out of bed, I picture her and cannot bear to disappoint her. She has somehow made me want to prove to myself that life is legitimately worth living. The weeks turn to months. I find myself transforming into a different person, or more accurately, becoming the real version of myself, someone even I've never truly known. My marriage is becoming stronger, and I'm finally allowing my husband to see my vulnerabilities, the ones I've always been so talented at hiding, not just from him, but everyone. The face I normally put forward is a mask. I've always been fearful to let anyone see what's hidden beneath my gregarious exterior, the fear, the mania, and the never-ending hopelessness. Smiling and laughing is how people are supposed to picture me, not the cruel reality that is this illness. The months turned to a year, and I finished the first part of treatment. I began the second round and found these sessions are more in-depth and downright grueling. Eventually, I almost don't recognize the woman who stares back at me in the mirror. My shame, always a constant shadow, has begun to disperse, slowly replaced by self-love and confidence. On the day I complete the process, as we both stand in her office, I'm left with feelings for my future that I never dreamt possible. For 20 plus years, death beckoned, and I narrowly escaped its grisly grip. The whispers calling my name when night fell, or the sun rose, sorrow my ever-present companion. However, with the right doctor, medications, therapy, my faith, and a family and husband firmly pulling for me, I was gifted with the one thing that had always evaded me: hope.